Teşekkürler Çınar Galtyan.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone from Istanbul. This is Hazal Türesan. I will be the MC of this very meaningful evening, and I would like to thank the International Hrant Dink Foundation for giving this honor to me. I would like to welcome everyone who are present here in this hall and who are watching us online. And we would like to thank our musicians, Sibil Zelişah, Hergel, Sevan İnyapan, Sevan Karabetoğlu, who greeted us with the song Nazani by Sayat Nova, who bridges cultures with his music and poetry. Tonight marks the 71st anniversary of Hrant Dink, and we will be celebrating his life and his struggle and other struggles, similar struggles all around the world. Today, we will be inspired by those who set forth on their journeys with courage, who struggle for justice, and we will give them a message: you are not alone. Now, in order to greet us on behalf of the Hrant Dink Foundation, I would like to invite Rakel Dink to the floor.
Sireli Paregamner, Hergeli Hürer Paryegak, Sevgili
Dear friends, esteemed guests, a very warm welcome to you all.
Am Hami Khair Hatun. Bugün Zhanna.
Today marks the 71st birthday of my beloved Çıtak, whom I long for more than life itself. Welcome here, everyone, at the International Hrant Dink Award ceremony, where we celebrate his life, his struggle, and all kindred struggles in his name. Dear friends, this year too, our world has kept turning in the spiral of wars, femicides, and the killing of children. They did not end the wars. Evil and death are roaming with full force. Death no longer comes only with illness or old age. Even newborn babies are sacrificed for money or for profit. Whether the killers are the states, adults, or children, they recount their deeds with pride, even with joy. It really defies reason. And alongside the pain comes impunity, which wounds our souls further. This year we had to reckon with the climate that bred the young men who brutally murdered Mattia Ahmet Minguzi at a marketplace. Today, our children face different kinds of suffering. On one side, children who are killed, on the other side, children who kill, and elsewhere, children unjustly separated from their parents by so-called justice. Last year, among those in this hall applauding the struggle for rights was the elected mayor of this very district, Şişli, Resul Emrah Şahan. Today he is behind the bars. His 5-year-old daughter waits for her father's return. The daughters of Demirtaş have been waiting for years for their father's return. By now, they're almost grown-ups. Isn't it a sin that such young children have to grow up without their fathers? Isn't it cruel to their small hearts? Isn't it a violation of the rightful share of others? Isn't it merciless? To which conscience, to which notion of justice does this belong? What kind of future are we building? On one side, we have impunity, on the other, the violation of the presumption of innocence, to imprison without evidence, to release despite the evidence. A justice system that releases murderers while jailing our beloved Çiğdem, Osman Kavala, and elected mayors. A system that deems it appropriate to punish Osman Kavala regardless of the European Court of Human Rights ruling establishing that there is no evidence. No one, not even those who are elected, has immunity from committing crimes, nor should they. But if you imprison so many journalists, students, elected officials without due process, using detention measures as punishment, then you lose both your credibility and trust. To imprison the elected mayor of one of the world's greatest cities, I'm talking about Mr. İmamoğlu, without presenting any convincing justification to the public, indeed, without even attempting to convince them, this constitutes a violation of human rights. We do not need to belong to this party or that party. The rule of law is a necessity for all of us. Where law is absent, insecurity reigns. Unrest, chaos, anxiety, dismay, these take hold. Violence and bullying, anger, resentment, and hatred grow. No one knows whose hand is in whose pocket. It's true, we all need justice, as much as we need water and air. If the strong are not just, then the weak suffer the most. Scripture tells us, learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow. And who is to fulfill this if not the prosecutors, judges, lawyers, and those in power? They speak of the peace process, but isn't the very foundation of peace is justice itself? And what is justice? Justice is truth. But when it is the state, the government itself, that is the oppressor, who can call it to account? No one. Only if it repents, admits its guilt, renounces its tyranny, turns denial into confession, and pledges never to repeat. It can begin by judging itself. Here I recall the words of Jesus. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. Not ritualized justice, not token gestures, but true repentance of the heart, true mercy. Transparency and honesty must be placed at the very heart of justice. Think of Saturday mothers, who were the laureate of the International Hrant Dink Award back in 2013. The whereabouts of their loved ones, the forcibly disappeared, the oppression and the bans they endured, still remain in darkness. We have only just bid farewell to Mother Emine Ocak. The true perpetrators must now feel shame. Or will they? Let us ask. Or is this merely a game? Will they ever be put on trial? All these government-appointed trustees, what kind of justice can they deliver? What solution can they possibly offer? To which process? To which problem? Shall the candle of justice be snuffed out entirely, or shall the fire of justice blaze brighter, scattering all darkness? Let light prevail. Let relief, peace, and security come to our land. Let joy come with prosperity. Let truth arrive, honesty prevail, love and forgiveness grow. Our yearning for justice was also at the heart of dearest Hrant's endeavor for peace between Turkey and Armenia. With his words, with his writings, he sought to become a path for the building of relations, for the opening of borders. And as the Hrant Dink Foundation, we do our utmost to carry forward this mission, striving to strengthen ties between peoples. Now that a deal has been signed in the United States for a peace route, bringing a new impetus to the sealed border, we do have a wish. May Turkey give true meaning to its constructive and positive steps it has taken towards Armenia. For, as Hrant said, a new opening must carry with it a new and empathetic language. In Agos, 15th of July 2005, he wrote this. And tonight, I thank our friends from Yerevan who join us with music, adding yet another brick to this bridge. We thank each of you for sharing this evening with us and for sharing hope. Thank you.
Amran Gisher, Arman Gisher, Lusna Ganushka Shoger, Chorot Charsni Gilig Maner, Urach Yerikesh Tzitager, Chorot Charsni Gilig Maner, Urach Yerikesh Tzitager, Amran Gisher, Marman Gisher, Shagner Tigen Gachager, Chorot Charsni Gergan Kager, Desnogi Sashtig Dager, Chorot Charsni Gergan Kager, Desnogi Sashtig Dager. Amran Gisher, Marman Gisher, Shagner Tigen Gachager, Urach Yerikesh Tzitager, Urach Yerikesh Tzitager, Urach Yerikesh
Rakel Dink.
We would like to thank Rakel Dink, and we hope that the closed border between the two neighboring countries will be opened very soon through mutual understanding and collaboration, and the two people will come together in an ever stronger manner towards the future. We would like to thank Zhanna Davtyan, Arman Peshtmaljyan, Stepan Ter-Ghevondyan for being with us from across the borders, and we would like to send our heartfelt greetings from Istanbul to Yerevan. Now, I would like to invite the head of the International Hrant Dink Award Committee, Ayşe Kadıoğlu, to the floor.
sponsors.
We would like to express our gratitude to our award ceremony sponsors on behalf of the organization committee and extend a very warm welcome to you all. Today is Hrant Dink's birthday, and for the 17th time this evening we are here to extend these awards. And as the committee, we do our best to stay away from momentary trends, and the recipients of these awards are actually ascertained by an international jury from among the nominees submitted in response to the open call on the Foundation's website. We will introduce this year's jury members shortly. Today, the spirit of the times is authoritarian and even fascistic. We are living in a period in which nation-states are raising border walls, and political parties built around anti-immigrant rhetoric are either in power or the second largest party in countries we know as established democracies. Anti-immigrant sentiment has almost become a cross-party policy. Examples include Italy, the Netherlands, Sweden, France, Germany, and the United States. Migrants are portrayed as if they are not human beings. We live in a period in which exclusion and humiliation of migrants has almost become commonplace. Years ago, I watched a video by Amnesty International called The 4-Minute Experiment. Maybe some of you have seen that video. In this video, people from different countries, including migrants, gather in a room and in pairs sit face to face for a total duration of 4 minutes, looking into each other's eyes without actually speaking. And you see that in just 4 minutes of communication, simply looking into the eyes of the other person allows you to understand that there's a story behind those eyes. So much so that at the end of the 4 minutes, you see people hugging and conversing with one another. Those who knew Hrant Dink are actually familiar with the light radiating from his eyes. And I wanted to share a memory of Hrant Dink with you this evening. It was September 2005. We were at a conference titled Ottoman Armenians During the Decline of the Empire, Issues of Scientific Responsibility and Democracy, organized jointly by Istanbul Bilgi University, Boğaziçi University and Sabancı University. Exactly 20 years ago, some of you may remember that various obstacles had been put in place to prevent this conference from taking place, and finally the conference was held on September 23-25. At the conference, especially during the first sessions, a female audience member from an institution that had adopted a policy of denying the Armenian genocide attempted to sabotage the proceedings, loudly shouting phrases such as "You are all traitors" from her seat. Maybe also some of you may remember that. Conference participants were even pelted with eggs thrown at them outside the building. It was such a setting that Hrant Dink delivered his seminal speech, "The water has found its crack." In this speech, after recounting the story of an Armenian grandmother who had traveled from France to visit her village in Sivas, where she passed away, Hrant used the expression in the meaning of "she found her peace, let her rest in her village," to her daughter, who was trying to bring her mother's body back to France, and said, "Yes, we Armenians have our eyes on these lands, but do not worry, we do not want to take this land, we just want to come back to this land to be buried deep inside of it." When Hrant Dink finished his speech, there was complete silence in the hall. Like everyone else, I was rooted to my seat. When the session ended for a break, I wanted to go and give Hrant a hug. I was still under the influence of this speech, and those who knew him will recall the way Hrant would wrap you in a heartfelt embrace. I looked for him with my eyes and was puzzled to see him at the back of the hall. The female audience member who had tried to sabotage the conference by shouting, "You are all traitors," was hugging Hrant. When our eyes met at that moment, Hrant, seeing my astonishment, spread his arms wide as if to say, honestly, she came over herself and hugged me. Of course, I was not the only person to witness this moment. Many other participants also saw Hrant's ability to connect with others that day. The scene is also recounted by my dear friend Ayhan Aktar in Tuğba Çandar's invaluable biography of Hrant Dink. Yes, Hrant Dink had an extraordinary gift for communication. When I first met him, we were at a meeting bringing together representatives from various civil society organizations and academia. Hrant spoke about issues faced by Armenians living in Istanbul in their daily lives. As he spoke, I muttered to myself, "So similar to women's issues," I said. Hrant, having heard me, paused and said the following words, "Exactly, this is it. We must discuss these points of intersection." Hrant was concerned with the intersections between different identities rather than singular, inward-looking identities. Yet the period we are living in presents us with tendencies that are the exact opposite of this. Today, inward-looking tendencies, or autarky, are the most prevalent trend, both in terms of individual identity and civil society affiliations, as well as in state policies. This encompasses building walls rather than bridges. And this is what we should be doing. Relationships with others are no longer about building bridges, but about bonding with those who are similar and or think alike, while cancelling those who are different. In short, building bridges is out or outdated, while digging trenches is in or the preferred behavior. In a world dominated by autarky, international institutions that connect states, such as the United Nations and the Council of Europe, lose their meaning and their raison d'être. But there is even more to it. Many grassroots civil society movements are also turning inward. For example, women's movements that completely reject heterosexual relationships are increasingly attracting attention. The climate we live in encourages polarization and exclusion, permeating everything from individual lifestyles to civil society and civil and state policies. Today's inward-looking autarkic mindset is increasingly unable to see those who are different from itself as human. That is why the governments and even some citizens of the United States and many European countries afford to remain indifferent and silent in the face of the genocide unfolding in Gaza. They can even afford to offer unconditional support to the state of Israel. Nevertheless, there are still students risking their education, people leaving their families to bring humanitarian aid to Gaza, doctors and political actors. They stand as monuments to the fact that we, as humanity, have not yet perished. They are the inspirations of today. There is darkness on one side, light on the other. We live in a country where Hrant's murderers are at large, where many of our friends are still in prison. But when it comes to light, we should always try to find inspiration. We should do our best not to perish. We should do our best to thrive. That is why we're here to embrace light today, to announce that we're not done yet. And we are here to applaud those who have not given up on communication. Bernard Williams has a book that was published in 1993, Shame and Necessity, and actually he talks about something that is even worse than slavery, and when you read those lines you are astounded as to what could be worse than slavery. And here's what he says: what is worse than slavery is defending slavery, that is to say, upholding policies that give way to slavery. And obviously Bernard Williams here talks about Aristotle's realization of slavery, but as a general principle, defending slavery, evil and authoritarian or fascist practices is far worse than being crushed by them. This evening, however, we do the exact opposite. We defend freedom and courage with conviction. I work in the field of political science. For us, democracy is not a subjective concept, meaning there is no such thing as democracy according to me and according to you. For example, in Robert Dahl's book Polyarchy, he identifies two intersecting axes. On the horizontal axis is participation, meaning elections, and on the vertical axis you have liberalism, meaning fundamental rights. Today, we are living in a period in which democracy is often reduced solely to the horizontal axis, that is, to elections. This is precisely why terms such as illiberal democracy are frequently in use around the world today. So, you compromise on fundamental rights, but nevertheless there are elections and there are opposition parties. The elections are held, but these are also called elective authoritarian regimes. And obviously, some argue these nuanced definitions are confusing. Why bother? But in the end, authoritarianism is authoritarianism, they say, whether electoral or not. However, these distinctions matter because electoral authoritarian regimes tend to be more durable. Of course, we can no longer speak of electoral authoritarianism in regimes where opposition leaders are imprisoned. There, absolute authoritarianism reigns supreme. Political scientist Adam Psorski's definition of democracy is remarkably simple and straightforward. According to Psorski, democracy in its most basic form is a system in which political parties can lose elections. Notice that he says lose elections, not win. For democracy to exist, those in power must change at certain intervals. Political actors who strike a blow to democracy often do so in the name of democracy itself. I sometimes hear them being portrayed as monsters. Yet that is not the case. It's not as simplistic as that, because evil has a certain banality, a mundane quality. Perhaps the person who explains this the best is Hannah Arendt. Hannah Arendt went to observe the trial in Jerusalem of Adolf Eichmann, one of the architects of the Holocaust, on behalf of the New Yorker magazine. When she looked at Eichmann, who was being tried behind a glass cage, she realized she did not see a monster, but rather an ordinary quote-unquote person. Someone as normal as the neighbor in the next apartment, or perhaps your own uncle. Someone who could go home, play with their children, have dinner in the evening, while simultaneously carrying out policies that orchestrated genocide. Someone who could rationalize every act of evil in which they played a part. And Hannah Arendt writes that Eichmann was not a monster, but a person who was terribly and terrifyingly normal. Arendt further elaborated that Eichmann was not a monster, yet lacked one quality. And it is this: the ability to see the world from another person's perspective. This is what he was lacking. He didn't have that skill. This suggests that the banality of evil lies in the inability to view the world through the eyes of those who are different from us. This is the greatest evil that comes from closing ourselves off. The more inward we turn, the more susceptible we become to evil and warfare. Tonight's awards highlight two main themes. The first draws attention to how states, by turning inward and erecting border walls to exclude migrants, leave us all impoverished. No human being should be condemned to lawlessness. Migration is often a matter of unavoidable imperative. Wars, climate conditions, and other crises force people to take great risks with their own lives and the lives of their loved ones. The second theme is academic freedom. Academic freedom encompasses freedom of expression, but it also has a distinct dimension. Academic freedom underscores the right to conduct original research grounded in the norms of a given academic discipline and to share the findings of that research with the wider public. Tonight, we will celebrate those who, around these two themes, inspired and give hope to people to continue this struggle. We will draw courage and inspiration from their example. And with your permission, as I conclude my remarks, I'd like to, well, this needs to be said, because last year we lost Fuat Keyman, a dear friend who sadly passed away last year. Let us also commemorate his memory this evening. And we'd like to thank you once again for being with us tonight. Thank you.
Ayşe Kadıoğlu.
We would like to thank Ayşe Kadıoğlu again. Now, we will go to Hrant Dink's office at the 23.5 Hrant Dink site of memory. Selin Sümbültepe and Erkan Zekiar will be joining us from there. The song we're going to listen to now carries an important memory. Now, with her strong voice.
Tam burada kalbimde yanar, kanar en dipte. Ağlanır yaram. Çok dilli duaları, akantüslü kapıları, tarihin kadim pusulası, evveli ahire bağlar. Yıkıldı yüreğimin yuvası, şehrim kendini ağlar. Kıyameti ömrümün en karası, vurgun yedi köküm ağlar. Tam burada kalbimde yanar yanar, kanar en
all around the world, people are going through rough challenges. Freedom is being tested. The demand for equality requires courage, and the struggle to exist requires resistance. We see the ecological crisis deepening, and millions are being uprooted under the shadow of wars and death. But in these difficult times, in these challenges, we do believe that it's important to remember the power of hope and solidarity. And we know that despite all, there are still those who are looking for a light, for inspiration where there is darkness. There are those who defend freedom against bans, those who stand by those who are neglected. And today we will look for, not for dark.
In Poland, women activists opened an abortion center across from the parliament building. The center, called Abotak, is also a symbol of the struggle against strict abortion laws.
Now, the predominantly Catholic country has some of the most restrictive abortion laws in Europe.
Abotak provides information and support on medical abortion, ensuring that women go through the abortion process free from trauma, shame, or humiliation, and emerge feeling supported and empowered. The center represents a brave and determined step toward women claiming their rights. In Budapest, thousands gathered on bridges and in public squares in protest of a new law banning LGBTI+ events and allowing for the identification of participants through facial recognition technology. The city's mayor declared that the Pride March would be a municipal event, revealing his stance against the bans. With their, quote, grey pride, unquote, demonstrations, protesters offered a creative and widespread response to the regime's humorless authoritarianism. In France, Giselle Pellicot, who was subjected to systematic sexual assault for many years, ensured the prosecution of dozens of perpetrators, saying, quote, shame must change sides, unquote.
En ouvrant les portes de ce procès le 2 septembre dernier, que la société puisse se saisir des débats qui y sont tenus. Je n'ai jamais regretté cette décision.
Court hearings were held publicly. Giselle Pellicot courageously raised her voice against the social structure that conceals crime. She gave strength to millions in their struggle against sexual violence. The aid ship Madeleine set sail from Italy toward Gaza with the aim of drawing attention to the humanitarian crisis created by the Israeli government's blockade of Gaza and to strengthen calls to lift the blockade. A 12-person crew of activists, politicians, journalists, and healthcare workers aimed to break the blockade with a symbolic shipment of humanitarian aid.
We have truth, justice, love, solidarity, and that's why we are way stronger than them.
The Israeli Navy stopped the Madeleine in international waters and detained the activists, but had to release them. Appealing to the global conscience, this act has been a rare symbol of solidarity with the people of Gaza.
Do not be silent. Rise up for justice and truth.
The Istanbul Bar Association was targeted for its call for an effective investigation into the killing of Kurdish journalists in conflict zones inside Syria. While the Bar Association was shedding light on the killing of civilians, a war crime under international law, a lawsuit was filed against its executive board on accusations of, quote, terrorist propaganda, unquote. The court ruled for the bar president and board members to be removed from office. Lawyers protested this decision with the slogan, quote, the defense will not be silenced, unquote, standing up for professional honor. In the Republic of Congo, a battery recycling facility located in the Pointe Noire region has long been polluting the region's soil and air, threatening the health of the Vindulu people.
Autour de l'usine. Les enfants sont au contact de cette poussière.
The struggle against this threat, launched by Cyril Traoré Ndebi and his family, spread and grew, leading to the closure of the facility. The community not only protected their own living space, but also won an exemplary victory against the environmental damage caused by international capital. In South Korea, women launched the 4B movement as a new method of resistance against the roles society imposes on women. The movement, which rejects dating, sex, marriage, and childbearing, opposes long years of femicide, digital violence, and society's oppressive gender policy. In Izmir and Birmingham, cities 2,700 kilometers apart from each other, municipal workers with similar demands went on strike. In Izmir, Turkey, workers protested ongoing wage injustice and harsh working conditions, while in Birmingham, England, rising living costs and lack of job security were the main reasons for the strike. With these struggles, which conveyed the same message in different geographies, the workers gave voice to their demands. In Serbia, thousands took to the streets following the collapse of the ceiling at Novi Sad train station that killed 16 people, calling it the result of negligence, lack of oversight, and corruption. Students leading the protest shut down the bridges and held silent actions with the slogan, quote, "Corruption kills," unquote. Farmers, workers, and artists soon joined the demonstrations. The peaceful mass protests represent a hopeful step toward holding officials accountable and seeking justice in Serbia. In Istanbul, students at Istanbul University held protests on campus when elected mayors, primary Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu, and municipal employees were removed from office and detained pending trial. The student protesters overcoming police barricades became a powerful symbol of tearing down walls of fear. Showing their determination to defend democratic values, students boycotted classes and raised their voices in public squares. The youth movement came to represent the new face of hope and resistance for Turkey's democratic future. In Peru, the Cucama people won their struggle to save the Marañón River, which they consider sacred. With its rich ecosystem, the river is the Cucama people's source of life. However, its existence was threatened when it suffered great damage from oil spills and environmental destruction. The determination of long-running struggle of the Cucama women, organized under the leadership of Mariluz, was met with a historic court decision that recognized the Marañón's right to exist, flow, and live without pollution.
This parliament means nothing!
In New Zealand, Maori parliamentarians performed the traditional haka dance in protest of a bill aimed at restricting indigenous people's rights in parliament. Those who performed this peaceful action were given the longest parliamentary suspensions ever imposed in the country. The parliamentary protest took place at a time when New Zealand was witnessing the largest mass actions in its history. These demonstrations were organized by the Maori people and their representatives in defense of their cultural identity and equal citizenship rights, and resulted in the rejection of the bill.
Well, some of the inspirations are here with us tonight in this hall. And some of them are watching us online. So, let's greet them and give them a big round of applause to all the inspirations that encourage us and give us hope. Now, we will have Gevende with us with their original music that everyone will be able to hear in their own language.
Merhaba. Bütün performanslardan çok daha ayrı bir heyecanla dönüyor şu an burada.
Başka yere geçesi her bir sabah hırsız gibi birkaç gün daha alıyor benden yine ağlaya ağlaya sarhoş gibi değil ağlaya ağlaya
Şimdi çalacağımız parçayla ilgili minik bir detay.
Now about the piece that we're going to perform now, which is called Beboyun Yarkın, and it dates back to the 18th century. Actually, it's a folk piece. It's in Armenian originally, but we're not going to sing it in Armenian. In our songs, we try and find inspiration from many different world cultures and languages, and we try to create our own language. And we're going to now offer this next song to you. And actually, this song, we never, we didn't necessarily look at the Turkish translation of the Armenian lyrics. We were curious, of course, but we pushed that curiosity aside because this song evoked different feelings in all of us, and we wanted to bring something new to life. We've been performing this song for a very long time, and then we recorded it for our album. So basically, from a linguistic point of view, maybe these lyrics do not make sense, but being together, a sense of togetherness, means that you don't really need words to communicate, and that's where you find inspiration as a band. That's why we wanted to pick this song for you. Like I said, it doesn't really make sense, the lyrics, but hopefully you will find meaning in it. Thank you.
blod and fire, hvor det gjøres blavene innemann. De har warned him never fight. Will the awful eye misbehave, man? Will the explode and slow and fight? Dimin fallen, dimin zalen, Gisher.
Çok teşekkürler. Çok teşekkürler. İyi ki doğdun.
Thank you and happy birthday Ahbarik. Yes, we'd like to thank Gevende for transporting us to their universe. The International Hrant Dink Award is presented to individuals, organizations and groups that give inspiration and hope to people for holding on to their struggle, that work for a fair world free from discrimination, racism and violence, who take personal risks for achieving those ideals, who break the stereotypes and use the language of peace. With this award, the Hrant Dink Foundation aims to remind to all those who struggle for these ideals that their voices are heard, that their efforts are visible, and that they're not alone. The recipients of the Hrant Dink Award is ascertained by an international and independent jury, and now the members of the 2020
The 2025 International Hrant Dink Award jury members. 2024 International Hrant Dink Award laureate Mor Chati, Women's Shelter Foundation. 2024 International Hrant Dink Award laureate Rugiatu Nene Turay. Lawyer and academic Aslı Bali. Political scientist, academic and author Fatma Gül Berktay. Human rights lawyer Ara Ghazaryan. Human rights lawyer Wolfgang Kalek. Historian and political scientist, academic Reshat Kasaba. Orchestra conductor Jem Mansour. Journalist and author Zeynep Oral. Theater and film actress, voiceover artist Tilbe Saran. President of the Hrant Dink Foundation, Rakel Dink.
Now, taking this opportunity, we'd like to thank all the jury members for their meticulous assessment and the time that they dedicated to this initiative. And now, it's time to introduce to you the recipient of this year's awards. First of all, we're going to celebrate our international recipient. To hand over the award, 2025 jury members Zeynep Oral and Fatma Gül Berktay are kindly invited to the stage.
And now the 2025 International Hrant Dink Award.
She was born in El Ejido, Andalusia in 1970. In 2001, she moved to Morocco, where she established close relationships with migrant communities. It was this contact that would determine the direction of her life. She documented conditions on the increasingly dangerous migration routes between Spain and Morocco, where human life is treated as dispensable, tracking movements and responding to calls for help. Throughout her career as a journalist and researcher, she has documented the deadly border crossings between North Africa and Southern Europe. In 2002, she founded the civil society organization Caminando Fronteras, Walking Borders. The organization's, quote, monitoring the right to life, unquote, reports aim to track migrants who lost their lives while trying to reach Europe via the Western Euro-African border migration route, communicating with their families, documenting losses, and holding states accountable. At the same time, the organization exposes illegal pushbacks and violent border interventions carried out through cooperation between the Spanish and Moroccan governments within the framework of migration policies. In 2017, she was summoned by the Moroccan judiciary and accused of people smuggling and facilitating illegal immigration, charges that carry a potential life sentence. These accusations were based on an investigation that began in 2012 with no judicial oversight and that violated her fundamental rights. The accusations drew major international backlash. Following solidarity calls from numerous human rights organizations, the case was dropped in 2019, but she was deported from Morocco in 2021.
Ilegales, traficantes, somos todas ellas.
While supporting migrant women and children in Morocco, she was subjected to an assassination attempt. She received death threats. In a single year between 2020 and 2021, she was subjected to 37 separate attacks, threats, surveillance, phone tapping, and raids on her home, revealing the dimension of the systematic pressure she faced. These attacks have put her life and her daughter's life at risk. She led global campaigns working for the transformation of European Union migration policies on the basis of transparency and human rights. She has received over 20 awards for her work. She has dedicated her life to making visible the invisible violence of borders and defending migrants' right to life. Through the solidarity network she established, she built a collective framework that aims to bring migrants out of loneliness and invisibility and ensure they are recognized and defended as rights holders. For working courageously for years to make heard the voices of thousands struggling for survival on migration routes, the 2025 International Hrant Dink Award laureate is Helena Maleno Garzón.
Vazgeçmeyen Helena Maleno Garzón.
Helena Maleno Garzón, who has never given up on defending life.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, because I must speak in Spanish. Del asesinato de Anas al-Sharif, corresponsal de Al Jazeera en Gaza, junto a otros compañeros periodistas, por contar el genocidio. Testigos valientes que dieron su vida, abanderando la libertad de información y la protección de los derechos humanos que agonizan hoy en el mundo entero. Periodistas como yo también lo soy, y me pregunto qué habríamos hecho en esa situación si hubiésemos tenido la valentía de resistir, de soportar las bombas, el hambre, la sed, la destrucción total de nuestra tierra. La figura de Anas y muchas otras se convierten en símbolo de resistencia frente a un mundo deshumanizado que se desmorona. El genocidio es la muestra palpable de ello y la lucha del pueblo palestino es el faro en las tinieblas.
I am writing these words of gratitude on the same day that news broke of the murder of Anas al-Sharif, Al Jazeera's correspondent in Gaza, alongside other fellow journalists who were killed for reporting on the genocide. They were brave witnesses who gave their lives defending freedom of information and the protection of human rights, which are now under siege across the world. I ask myself what journalists like me, after all I am a journalist, would have done in that situation, and if we would have had the courage to resist and endure the bombs, the hunger, the thirst, the total destruction of our land. Anas and many others have become symbols of resistance against a dehumanizing world that is falling apart. Genocide is tangible proof of this, and the struggle of the Palestinian people is a beacon of hope in the darkness.
Este es un premio especial, porque nace también de la resistencia de un pueblo que se reconstruyó después de un genocidio, que volvió a levantarse, a rehacer sus comunidades, a sostener su cultura y a enseñar al mundo que la memoria es una forma de vida y de justicia. Hrant Dink también fue asesinado por su compromiso con la verdad, con la memoria y con la convivencia entre pueblos. Por ello, repito, es un honor inmenso y os doy las gracias. Este premio es un hermoso premio porque nace de raíces que volvieron a brotar. Tenéis toda mi admiración y respeto.
This is a special award because it also comes from the resilience of a people who rose again after genocide. They got back on their feet, rebuilt their communities and kept their culture alive. They showed the world that memory is a way of life and a path to justice. Hrant Dink was also murdered because of his commitment to truth, memory, and coexistence between peoples. For this reason, I reiterate that it is an immense honor for me and I express my gratitude. This is a beautiful award because it stems from roots that have sprouted again. You have my utmost admiration and respect.
No podemos engañarnos. Estamos en un momento lleno de incertidumbres donde los demonios del horror se han convertido en compañeros diarios de nuestras vidas. Mientras los extractivistas desangran literalmente la tierra, arrancando los olivos de los territorios ocupados, extrayendo con manos de niños y niñas el coltán del centro de la tierra en el Congo, quemando tierras para extraer minerales, disparando a quienes se acercan a ríos para buscar el agua, mientras se niega el cambio climático que provoca muertes y hambrunas, que será decisivo en los últimos años para el movimiento de personas, el racismo, la xenofobia, la islamofobia, el odio a la otra y al otro, se han convertido en una especie de mantra perverso que sostiene la muerte.
We cannot deceive ourselves. We are living in a time full of uncertainties, where the demons of horror have become daily companions in our lives. Extractivists are literally bleeding the earth dry by uprooting olive trees from occupied territories, extracting coltan from the depths of the earth in Congo with the hands of children, burning lands to obtain minerals, and shooting at those who approach rivers to fetch water. Meanwhile, climate change, a phenomenon that already causes deaths and famine, and yet to be decisive in the coming years for the human migratory movements, is denied. Racism, xenophobia, Islamophobia, and the hatred of the other have become a kind of perverse mantra that promotes death. Dehumanization runs rampant, flourishing in fertile ground.
En las fronteras lo sabemos bien. Entendemos cómo la necropolítica construye espacios de no derecho, cómo se eligen cuáles vidas son desechables, vidas que no importan en un sistema devorador y extractivista, fronteras donde se libra una guerra de baja intensidad, cuyas víctimas son solo de un lado y los victimarios, los asesinos, gozan de una terrible impunidad, lugares donde las empresas de armamento han invertido en el control migratorio y generado un doble negocio, provocando los desplazamientos de las personas y sometiéndolas cuando huyen a terribles sufrimientos y muertes. Dejarles morir, matarles, simplemente por ejercer el derecho al movimiento.
At the borders, we know this well. We understand how necropolitics constructs lawless realms, how it selects which lives are disposable, lives that do not matter to a devouring and extractive system. Borders where a low-intensity war is being waged with victims from only one side, while the perpetrators, the murderers, enjoy terrifying impunity. These are spaces where arms companies have invested in migration control and turned migration into a double business, causing displacement in the first place and inflicting unbearable suffering and death on those who flee. They kill them or let them die simply for exercising their right to move.
El nuevo caporal del mundo, del que no merece ni que se mencione su nombre, Maneja un imperio construido sobre otro genocidio, el de los pueblos originarios, y asentado sobre la sangre de miles y miles de esclavos africanos. Este ser presume de construir cárceles rodeadas de cocodrilos para las personas que se mueven. Su policía detiene a madres cuando van a buscar a sus hijos a los colegios y desaparece en centros de detención de terceros países a personas solo por ser migrantes.
The new overseer of the world, whose name is not even worth mentioning, runs an empire built on yet another genocide. This genocide targets indigenous peoples and was rooted in the blood of thousands of enslaved Africans. This individual boasts of constructing prisons surrounded by crocodiles for those who dare to move. His police arrest mothers picking up their children from school and make people disappear in third country detention centers simply for being migrants.
El régimen de fronteras es similar en todos los lugares del mundo y la Europa fortaleza ha construido muros y vallas asesinas, ha subcontratado a los países del norte de África para ejercer de gendarmes y ha dibujado muros invisibles en el Mediterráneo y en el Atlántico. La construcción de los espacios de no derecho ha ido acompañada de la victimización, criminalización y la cosificación de las personas.
The border regime is similar everywhere in the world. The fortress Europe has built walls and deadly fences, subcontracted North African countries to act as gendarmes, and drawn invisible walls in the Mediterranean and the Atlantic. The construction of lawless realms has been accompanied by victimization, criminalization, and objectification of people.
Este foro y este premio es la ocasión para denunciar la construcción de espacios de no derecho alrededor del control de las políticas, del control de poblaciones que ejercen el derecho al movimiento y el derecho a vivir dignamente.
This forum and this award provide an opportunity to denounce the creation of lawless spaces around population control policies that undermine the right to mobility and the right to live with dignity.
Para las empresas. No es baladí que mucha de la tecnología de control que ejecuta muertes diariamente en las fronteras sea sionista y haya sido ensayada anteriormente en el genocidio del pueblo palestino para posteriormente ser comprada por otros estados criminales.
We are here to denounce the death and the exploitation of migrants as a business for corporations. It is no coincidence that much of the surveillance technology that kills people daily at the borders is of Zionist origin and was tested on the Palestinian people, only to be later purchased by other criminal states.
Estamos aquí para plantar cara a un racismo que es el sustentador ideológico de las muertes y el sufrimiento. Estamos aquí para honrar las 31.258 personas que nuestra organización Caminando Fronteras ha documentado su muerte solo en las fronteras del Estado español con África desde el año 2018 hasta este momento, y por las miles que pierden cada día sus vidas en los territorios de frontera. Su memoria nos sostiene.
We are here to confront a racism that underpins the ideology behind death and suffering. We are here to honor the 31,258 people whose deaths our organization, Caminando Fronteras, has documented along the borders of Spain and Africa from 2018 to the present, and the thousands of those lives, those who lost their lives in the borderlands. Their memory sustains us.
Por ellas no podemos ceder a la desesperanza ni al miedo. La dignidad es el camino cuando desde tantos frentes se ataca a la solidaridad y a las raíces de la vida. Traer a nuestros corazones las luchas de aquellas que encauzaron Nuestro camino a este presente, que aun dando miedo, intentamos llenar de amor y esperanza, traer aquí, a este espacio, a nuestras ancestras, porque nuestros propios genes son información y memoria de muchas luchas.
For their sake, we cannot surrender to despair or fear. Dignity is the way forward when the roots of life and solidarity are under attack on so many fronts. We must remember the struggles of those who paved the way for us. Although the present is frightening, it is also filled with love and hope. We must bring our ancestors here to this side because our own genes carry the memory of their struggles.
Agradecer a las que ponen el cuerpo, a las mujeres y a la infancia. Frente a estos ataques constantes en los genocidios, las mujeres sostienen la vida en la cotidianidad, haciendo de cada gesto una revolución, enraizadas en saberes de antaño y en el compromiso con sus realidades.
We must thank those who put their bodies on the line, the women and the children alike. In the face of constantly unfolding attacks and genocides, women make daily life possible by turning every gesture into a revolution. They do this by building on old knowledge and remaining committed to their own reality. Looking back on all those years, marked by immense pain, I have found love in the thousands of people who stand firmly against suffering, and also in the honor of those who have died, remembered by their families and communities. They are mourned and prayed for as a way of keeping their memory alive. I want to thank them because they all live on inside me, and their lives transformed me. I want to thank those of you that never let me fall in front of those who continue to persecute us. I want to thank my companions on this journey and acknowledge their faith in every moment of their lives. We continue to stand strong and fill trenches with life and struggle. Many of us are determined to fill with life what states have occupied with death. We have weapons and dignity to shake the walls and fences of all borders. Today is a day to send a message that we are united and that rights are not rights if they are not for everyone.
Somos la madre a la que a pie de playa la violencia del control fronterizo le arranca a su hijo de los brazos, mientras ella es violentada, humillada y abusada. Somos el niño que en soledad atraviesa el Atlántico tras haber sido separado de los brazos de su madre. Vamos en una neumática que se hunde, pedimos auxilio durante horas y somos el niño que se ahoga mientras nadie hace nada por salvar su vida. Somos los huesos que durante 10 años permanecen en las tumbas de Tarajal, tumbas sin nombre, mientras se niega a las familias a identificarlos, llorarlos y repatriarlos. Somos los cadáveres de las playas buscados por familias desesperadas. Somos las desaparecidas en los muros y las vallas, de las que nadie dice saber nada, pero cuyo rastro se perdió entre militares y policías. Somos las familias buscadoras expulsadas de las comisarías, vilipendiadas. Somos las comunidades que hacen listas de desaparecidos. Somos las que lloran a sus muertas. Somos las vidas desechables. Somos las miles de víctimas a las que se les ha humillado y avergonzado llamándolas clandestinas, invasoras, putas, negras, menas, malas madres, irregulares, ilegales, traficantes. Somos las supervivientes de los genocidios. Somos todas ellas.
We are the mother on the beach whose child is torn from her arms by the violence of border control while she herself is violated, humiliated and abused. We are the child who crosses the Atlantic alone after being separated from their mother's embrace. We are in a rubber boat that is sinking, calling for help for hours, and we are the child who drones while no one does anything to save our life. We are the bones that lie for 10 years in the unmarked graves of Tarashal, with families, while families are denied the chance to identify, mourn and repatriate their loved ones. We are the corpses on the beaches sought by desperate families. We are all those who have disappeared behind walls and fences. Daha da okudu. Hepsini okudu.
Hoy gritamos en nombre de todas que la vergüenza ya no está del lado de las víctimas, sino de sus victimarios, de los criminales, y a pesar de la impunidad que gozan, arrastran la ignominia y el delito, y aunque lo oculten, por sus manos ejecutoras corre la sangre de personas inocentes. Por eso, nuestro agradecimiento hoy y siempre es para las víctimas, porque su memoria nos sostiene, para sus seres queridos, por esa fuerza que derriba muros y hace confiar en el futuro, para las que luchan y luchamos cada día por la vida. Gracias, hermanas, por un mundo sin fronteras. ¡Viva Palestina libre!
Bizler aile üyelerince çaresizce aranan sahildeki cesetleriz. Biz o duvarların ve
They claim not to know anything about us, but we disappeared under the military and police control. We are the families seeking their loved ones, expelled from police stations and vilified. We are the communities making lists of the disappeared and mourning their dead. We are the disposable lives. We are the thousands of victims who have been humiliated and shamed by being called clandestine, invaders, whores, blacks, unaccompanied minors, bad mothers, illegal migrants and traffickers. We are the survivors of the genocide. We are all of them. Today, we cry out on behalf of everyone that shame no longer lies with the victims, but with their perpetrators, the criminals. And despite the impunity they enjoy, they carry with them ignominy and guilt. Even if they try to hide it, the blood of countless innocent people runs through their executing hands. That's why our gratitude today and always goes to the victims, because their memory sustains us. It goes to their loved ones for the strength they give us to break down walls and have confidence in the future. It goes to those who fight and struggle every day for life. Thank you, sisters, for a world without borders. Long live free Palestine.
Ding ba bing, boom ba boom ba boom ba bing, boom ba boom ba boom ba bing, boom ba boom ba boom ba bing, boom ba boom ba boom ba bing, boom ba boom ba boom ba bing, boom ba boom ba boom ba bing, boom ba boom ba boom ba bing, boom ba boom ba boom ba bing, boom ba boom ba boom ba bing, boom ba boom ba boom ba bing, boom ba boom ba boom ba bing.
Helena Maleno Garzón.
Helena Maleno Garzón, our heartfelt congratulations. Now, before we announce the recipient of the Turkey Award, we're going to listen to a very special song together for the first time. Hüsnü Arkan composed this piece inspired by Hrant Dink. It's entitled Ahparik. Ceylan Ertem will be on the vocals.
Kaç yıl oldu karanlık bir merdivenden iner çıkar hayatım. Yağmur olmasın mesela çatılarda tıp tıp yürür güvercinler.
Ahparik bu kilit nedir kapılarda? Kırar çıkar kalbim sokaklara. Günaydın demişsin sen komşulara. Pat pat uçsun güvercinler. Pat pat uçsun güvercinler.
Orada bir daha böyle güvercinler dik. Ömrümüz bizim. Orada bir daha kanat kanat yakınlaşır. Ömrümüz bizim. Şimdi bir yağmur yağsa
çıkar gelirsin.
Sarılsak kirimizden
çıkar gelirsin.
Bir de bir rüzgar olsa İstanbul kopsa günler
çıkar gelirsin.
Kimsesiz bir çocuk gibi ürperse deniz
çıkar gelirsin.
Kuşlara kanatlara
çıkar gelirsin.
Güvercin uçlarsa
çıkar gelirsin.
Şimdi bir yağmur yağsa
çıkar gelirsin.
Uyansa mümkünümüz çıkar gelirsin. güvercin olmuşsun sen çatılarda. Pat pat uçuyor kalbimiz, pat pat uçsun güvercinler. Burada bir daha böyle güvercinler mi görür? Ömrümüz bizim. Burada bir daha kanat kanat yakınlaşıp derdimiz bizim. Şimdi bir yağmur yağsın,
çıkar gelirsin.
Buluttan yıldızlardan
çıkar gelirsin.
Bir de bir rüzgar olsa İstanbul baksa günlerim
çıkar gelirsin.
Kimsesiz bir çocuk gibi ürperse deniz
çıkar gelirsin.
Sarılsak sevgiliye
çıkar gelirsin.
Türküler sarılır
çıkar gelirsin.
Kuşlara kanatlara
çıkar gelirsin.
Uyansa bittiğimiz çıkar gelirsin.
Çıkar gelirsin.
Şimdi bir yağmur yağsa
çıkar gelirsin.
Günler geceler yarınlar uyanırken
çıkar gelirsin. Çıkar gelirsin sokaklara. Çıkar gelirsin denizlere. Çıkar gelirsin sokaklara. Çıkar gelirsin İstanbul'a. Çıkar gelirsin.
Hello everyone and welcome to this special event. We performed this song for the first time this evening, so we were a bit apprehensive. But we are delighted to be here, and we'd like to thank you all for being with us here this evening as well. Hrant Dink had a dream which was coexistence. And this dream we have got to maintain. I believe that it's an obligation for all of us. And we're going to do exactly that, because there's no other way. And I'd like to thank a couple of people for their support in this project, to everyone who made this possible. First of all, Ümit Kıvanç, because he was the person who helped us communicate with the foundation, and he helped us with everything else as well. So thank you, Ümit. And I'd like to thank my band, Gökhan Tümkaya, Bülent Ünal, who arranged the song, Efe Demirören, Bahadır Şen as well, and Zeynep from the foundation. I'd like to thank her also for her kind help in all sorts of different ways. And of course Ceylan Ertem for her vocals. Thank you so much, Hüsnü. This is also an honor for me. It's actually my second time on this stage. The first time around I was incredibly nervous, but I'm also nervous because I got to perform with you, and obviously you've said it all that I would have wanted to say, but there are two things that I'd like to draw your attention to. Street animals especially, because they are also under oppression. They're being abused and violated and raped and massacred, unfortunately, and I do not think that this law should be upheld because it legitimizes death and murder. It should be withdrawn immediately. And today we talked about the human race and how we taint one another, but we also harm the environment, we also harm animals. And I'd like to also give a shout out to the people of İkizköy for their resistance and say happy birthday Ahbarik, and thank you for the inspiration. We'd like to thank Hüsnü Arkan for gifting us this wonderful song, and Ceylan Ertem for her wonderful vocals. Also, we'd like to thank Bülent Ünal on the guitar, Efe Demiryol and Betedoyoran Gökhan Tümkaya on the drums, and Bahadır Şentürk on the clarinet. We'd like to thank them all for this brilliant performance. And now it's time to announce the recipient of the Turkey recipient of the International Hrant Dink Award. To present the award, the jury members Tilbe Saran and Rakel Dink are kindly invited to the stage.
Karşınızda 2025
The recipient of the 2025.
He was born in 1966 in Adana. He graduated from the Department of Food Engineering at Ege University, then went on to study for a master's degree at Akdeniz University, where he also completed his doctorate on environmentally friendly analysis methods. He began his professional career in the laboratories of the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry, where he worked on the detection of residual additives and toxins in food and water sources. In 2009, he became assistant professor at Akdeniz University, where he played a crucial role in establishing the Food Safety and Agricultural Research Center. He served as a deputy technical director of the center from 2010 to 2016. His career path as a scientist was to turn into a journey championing the public interest. His research into food safety, environmental health, and toxic chemicals was never limited to the laboratory. He used his professional knowledge for the public good by challenging issues that threaten public health and questioning policies that directly impact public health. While working on a scientific project led by the Ministry of Health, he found dangerous levels of carcinogens in soil, water, and food in various regions of the country. Although he shared this critical data with the relevant authorities, the results were not made public. He refused to remain silent on the issue and, acting in line with his responsibility as a scientist, shared the information with the public. As a result of his actions, he was prosecuted and sentenced to prison. In 2016, he signed the Academics for Peace petition, "We will not be a party to this crime." For this, he was removed from his position at the university by presidential decree. Although this decision may have been a blow to his academic career, it did not make him abandon his work in the fields of environmental health, toxic chemicals, food safety, and public health. He appealed his removal and won, and in 2024 was reinstated. However, the university objected to the court decision to return him to his post, and he was once again suspended. But still, he continued to carry out research and share his findings publicly. He became the voice of those facing natural disasters in various regions of the country. He prepared rights-based reports in regions where children were forced to live with polluted water, polluted air, and contaminated foods. He argued that school children should be provided with at least one healthy meal per day, calling for school canteens to be transformed into public kitchens. He described environmental destruction as, quote, slow violence, unquote, and strived to reveal the hidden damage it causes. Through all his work, he tirelessly reminds us that scientific data is inseparable from social responsibility. The, quote, cancer data trial, unquote, is perhaps the most striking example of his struggle. He was handed down a prison sentence for publicly sharing data on environmentally induced cancer that has not been shared by the Ministry of Health. However, following an appeals process, he was acquitted by the Court of Cassation in 2025. This verdict has paved the way for a renewed questioning of the boundary between social responsibility of science and state secrets. He continued his call for transparency in the food sector, drawing attention to the discrepancies between advertising and informing the public in the promotion of industrial food products in particular. As a result of his statements on this issue, a food company took him to court. Despite all the legal pressure, he has never given up on defending his belief that public health cannot be ignored for the sake of commercial concerns. He has played an important role in providing public access to vital information by sharing about technical issues such as food safety in a clear and concise way. He has always prioritized academic freedom, both while selecting his research topics and when sharing their results. With scientific integrity, an insistence on defending the public interest, and the courage to take risks, he has always acted with an understanding of his professional and ethical responsibility. For his vision of information not as an instrument of power, but as the shared right of society, and for his courage, the 2025 International Hrant Dink Award laureate is Bülent Şık.
Çok teşekkür ederim.
Thank you very much. I did actually prepare a speech, and before I get on with that, I'd like to say just one thing at the outset. For long years now, in our country there has been this movement for rights and liberties, and many people lost their lives during this fight, and dear Hrant Dink is but one of them. So happy birthday, Ahbarik. That is my message to you all. And today, taking this opportunity, I'd like to commemorate everyone who lost their lives on this path and those who still continue to be engaged on this journey. Osman Kavala, Çiğdem Mater, Can Atalay, Selahattin Demirtaş, Selçuk Kozaçlı, all these friends in prison. I'd like to convey my heartfelt greetings to them all. I'm a bit nervous, so I'm just going to read my speech. People say I'm a good speaker, natural speaker, but I had this stage fright now, so I'm just going to read my speech. Dear friends who cherish the words, the life, and the legacy of Hrant Dink, it is a profound honor to be here this evening to receive this award that bears Hrant's name. His life showed us the heavy price of speaking the truth and demanding justice, and yet also the dignity of insisting on a future filled with hope. At times, the conscience of the public is embodied in a single person, especially in those who speak with sincerity, courage, and an authenticity that touches the human soul. Hrant was such a special person. A voice that still resonates in this country's conscience, calling not for hatred but for love, not for conflict but for solidarity, not for division but for shared human values. He was a voice inviting us to share the sorrows of the past and to live together in peace. This award holds a unique significance as it is rooted in the life, the struggle, and the unfinished words of the man whose name it bears. When I was asked to prepare a speech for the award ceremony, I initially felt a sense of panic. I wondered what I could say, how I could possibly find the words to mark this meaningful award. After a while, the first thought that came to my mind was my dear uncle, Ahmet Albay. He was killed in 1980 in what was called an unsolved murder, though we all knew the perpetrators. I could not but help draw a connection between his life and that of Hrant. He too was fighting for justice and equality. He too defended humanity and the human spirit. He too was silenced, just like Hrant. These people who gave their lives for their beliefs and ideals give us strength. They remind us that another kind of life is possible. Their memory now asks us, can we truly mourn? Can we preserve our memory? Can we confront the past? Can we find the words to continue after them, to amplify their voices, to carry their struggles forward? My uncle Ahmet was a lawyer. In the 1970s, he took on many risky cases, most notably the Maraş massacre. On the 3rd of May 1980, he was killed in an armed attack carried out by forces we today call the Deep State. A few months later came the 12th of September military coup, which shattered Turkey's brightest generation. This is one of the main reasons for the social collapse we experience today. Those who killed my uncle roamed freely in Turkey for years, committing further crimes. They were only arrested abroad, and only because of their drug trafficking extended beyond the country. After being extradited and serving a short prison sentence, they were released under a special amnesty in 2012. One of the killers, who had been a vocational high school student at the time of the murder, said after his release, "I did what had to be done, therefore I feel no regret or remorse whatsoever." He could utter this sentence. Of course, the perpetrators should be named, but not here, not tonight. Hrant once wrote, "Longing is the call of lived experiences. It is the nostalgic cry of the past, of memories, of old friends echoing in our souls." This is a phrase that weighs heavily on my heart whenever I think of it, because it carries a completely different meaning too. Longing is not only for what has been, but also for what can no longer be, for a future that has been lost. When we mourn the people we have lost, like my uncle, like our beloved Hrant, we also mourn the life we could not live with them, all the possibilities that are now gone. And within this longing there is often a heavy sense of guilt. When a loved one is torn from life, we cannot help but feel as if it were somehow our fault. Questions never cease. What if things had been different? What if we had done this or acted earlier? A profound guilt gnaws at you. And these feelings sink into a void that makes the absence of justice palpable at every moment. I don't know how justice can be attained in such circumstances, for in this country even the pursuit of justice is often built on the absence of justice itself. After losing my uncle, and after enduring the oppression of the 1980 coup, my family sank into a long silence that lasted for years. Injustice, helplessness, and that gnawing guilt eventually found expression in silence. Perhaps silence did not come from a desire to heal the wound, but rather from the impossibility of finding words to describe it. As years passed, I came to realize how many wounds remain unhealed in this country's history, wounds that are still open, still bleeding, and still lacking justice, both on an individual and societal level. One of those wounds was opened in the heart of my family. My uncle was 35 when he was murdered. I was just a kid in my final year of middle school. His office was very close to my school, and often I visited him after lessons. I have many memories to share, but here I will recount one of our cross-country trips, one of the most unforgettable memories of my childhood. Years later, I realized that this trip might have been the first time I connected personal grief with societal wounds. It was 1977. I had just finished primary school. My first intercity trip from Adana, the city where I was born, to Istanbul during the summer vacation is still fresh in my memory. We drove in my late Uncle Ahmet's car. In Istanbul, we stayed a few days with relatives in Küçükçekmece. At that time, as anyone who grew up in the 70s would know, the streets belonged to us children. I played all day with a child I had met there. At one point, We told each other our names, but immediately after saying his name, he felt the need to explain. "I'm Armenian," he said. I shrugged and replied, "So what?" And we carried on playing. That day we were just two children brought together not by identity but by game and by childhood. I learned the rest much later. I attended middle school in Adana in a building constructed in 1880, originally serving Christian students, later named Tepeba Middle School. Hrant once wrote, "School is not a place where knowledge is dictated, but where it is questioned." But the school I attended was far from that ideal. Some of our teachers would describe the school as an old Armenian school and make insulting remarks about Armenians. At those moments, I would always think of that child I used to play with in Istanbul. I would think he would be hurt if he heard this. I would listen to what was being said half-heartedly, never believing those words. What gave me this skeptical stance was my surroundings. Looking back now, I see I could have grown up in an environment woven with discriminatory, exclusionary thoughts, but there were other examples before me. My uncle, my father, who always said, "Do not earn your bread by causing harm to others." My mother, who showed me that one can struggle and change their life at any age. And my teacher Ruhi, who helped me see history through a different lens. Without them, what kind of a person would I have become? I do not know. This is not only a question about my own life story, it also makes me question how the society we live in is shaped, how discrimination, exclusion, and violence are produced and devalue a person or a community. I don't believe that evil is inherent in human nature. It is learned in life. Unless we understand the source of evil, unless we question the darkness that turns a baby into a murderer, we can do nothing. Nor can we know how to spread goodness. Only years later did I discover that the streets where I played as a child, the school I attended, the neighborhood I grew up in, all carried a far more painful and bloody past than I had been taught at school. When I read Zabel Yesayan's book, In the Ruins, which recounts the Adana massacre of 1909, in which tens of thousands of Armenians were killed, I found it hard to comprehend how such a great carnage still remained unknown. Even today, most people living in Adana know almost nothing about this great destruction, and that is the unfortunate truth. Without confronting the evils of the past, without sharing the pain, neither justice nor true social healing can be possible. A society that turns a blind eye, remains silent, refuses to confront its past, will sooner or later summon its own executioners, Hitler's, Mussolini's, Pinochet's. Sometimes I think that the roots of the destruction and social decay our country is experiencing today lie in this very refusal to face the past, this turning a blind eye to injustices, this failure to reconcile with history. In this country, speaking the truth, listening to the voices of those who are silenced, amplifying their voices often means loneliness and pressure and threat, but I know that in a society where silence prevails, even a single word of truth can be a window opening from darkness to light. That is why being able to speak that word, to bear witness to the truth, is the most powerful way to pierce through collective silence and to keep hope alive, the way to heal the wounds of the past and safeguard the future. It is necessary to talk about the pains of the past, to heal wounds that are still open, but just as important is preventing new wounds from being inflicted. Bearing witness, therefore, requires us not only to see what is before our eyes, but also to notice the wounds that are rendered invisible. Among those invisible wounds, the gravest and most painful is the exposure of children to toxic chemicals. Children are the most vulnerable group, feeling most deeply the burden of environmental and social conditions. A child's upbringing in a healthy environment, access to clean water, and adequate and balanced nutrition play a decisive role in their entire life. Therefore, defending children's fundamental rights is crucial. In our country, nearly 20 million children live under the risks caused by polluted air, water and soil. Lead alone permanently damages the mental development of children. This is not only a health issue, it is a matter of environmental justice. For children who live in areas of high pollution often also face poverty, food insecurity and social exclusion. As a result, both their cognitive skills and learning capacity, as well as their life opportunities, are doomed to fall far short of their inherent potential. When a country's air is poisoned, its water is contaminated, its soil saturated with heavy metals, and when all this is known yet ignored, there can be no justice, no equality, no dignified life. In such a landscape, not only nature is poisoned, but also the bonds between human beings. Yet humans are not islands. Life is possible only with others. Today, healthy nutrition, environmental justice and social equality cannot be considered separately. However, these issues are often mistakenly reduced to questions of individual choice or personal responsibility. In this way, the real culprits, the true perpetrators, are rendered invisible and the problems only deepen. Silence makes the perpetrator's task easier. When the truth is left unspoken, lies gain strength and conscience becomes paralyzed. That is why revealing the truth, exposing the real culprits of these problems and bringing these issues before the public is not only a moral duty but also a professional responsibility. This responsibility rests on the shoulders of all who care about the public good, above all on scientists, journalists, doctors and lawyers. As a scientist, I strive to fulfill this responsibility. Hrant Dink's words illuminate my path. If silence is taboo, then speaking is democracy. Speaking up, taking a stance, and undertaking action can sometimes be risky. But let us not forget that taking an ethical stance means consciously stepping into difficult positions. True ethical behavior sometimes requires standing against traditions, and even against laws. When laws, conscience, fear and anxiety collide, it entails refusing to remain silent, refusing to step back, and choosing instead to step forward. Sometimes that first step is taken by a single person. We hope that the step we take will dispel the possibilities of justice, loss of truth and erosion of social conscience. But hope does not grow in silence. It flourishes when we stand side by side, when we take our steps together. These are days when we most need a shared hope that holds us together and binds us to one another. For life gains its meaning by embracing the lives of others. Hope is not born from waiting, but from initiative and action. And there is no greater source of hope than taking action for a society where every child can grow up healthy, free and happy. It is possible to ensure that children grow up in good health. We just need to take the necessary steps in that direction. Hrant's legacy is not just that of one person. It is a legacy of living together, of fraternity and of justice. This award brings me not only immense honor, but also the responsibility of keeping that legacy alive. I dedicate it to my family, who give me strength, and to the children of this world, its most precious beings. Thank you.
Bülent Şık'ı yürekten tebrik ediyoruz ama
we would like to wholeheartedly congratulate Bülent Şık, but please remain on the stage. Don't leave us. Because now I will also be inviting the 2025 jury members and laureates for a photo shoot. Please join me on stage.
Hrant Dink'in deyişiyle dünyanın...
As Hrant Dink says, the unarmed forces of the world are coming together. They don't have generals, they don't have soldiers, but they have incredible power. They are the unarmed forces that fight for an equal life in their own walk of life. They are defending life in their own language, and they are asking for equality and advocating for life. We would like to thank them for all their endeavors.
Ben olsam gitmem.
I wouldn't leave. I wouldn't leave yet if I were you. Please stay in your seats because we are going to listen to the Ahparik song once again. And this time we will also be watching some scenes from the Memory Fails film.
Kaç yıl oldu karanlık bir merdivenden iner çıkar hayatımız. Yağmur olmuşsun mesela çatılarda, tıp tıp yürür güvercinler.
Ahparik bu kilit nedir kapılarda? Kırar çıkar kalbin sokaklara. Günaydın demişsin sen komşulara. Pat pat uçsun güvercinler. Pat pat uçsun güvercinler.
Burada bir daha böyle güvercinler mi görülür? Ömrümüz, ömrümüz bizim. Burada bir daha kanat kanat yakınlaşır mı? Ömrümüz, ömrümüz bizim. Şimdi bir yağmur yağsa çıkar gelirsin. Arınsak kirimizden çıkar gelirsin. Bir de bir rüzgar olsa İstanbul koksa günler çıkar gelirsin. Kimsesiz bir çocuk gibi ürperse deniz çıkar gelirsin. Kuşlara kanatlara çıkar gelirsin. Güvercin uçuverse çıkar gelirsin. Şimdi bir yağmur yağsa çıkar gelirsin. Uyansa mümkünümüz çıkar gelirsin. Güvercin olmuşsun sen çatılarda, pat pat uçuyor kalbimiz. Pat pat uçsun güvercinler. Burada bir daha böyle güvercinler mi görür? Ömrümüz, ömrümüz bizim. Burada bir daha kanat kanat yakınlaşır mı? Derdimiz, derdimiz bizim. Şimdi bir yağmur yağsa çıkar gelirsin. Buluttan, yıldızlardan çıkar gelirsin. Bir de bir rüzgar olsa İstanbul koksa günler çıkar gelirsin. Kimsesiz bir çocuk gibi ürperse deniz çıkar gelirsin. Sarılsak sevgiliye çıkar gelirsin. Türküler sarı gelinler çıkar gelirsin. Kuşlara kanatlara çıkar gelirsin. Uyansa mümkünümüz çıkar gelirsin. Güvercin uçuverdi çıkar gelirsin. Şimdi bir yağmur yağsa çıkar gelirsin. Dünler bugünler yarınlar yıkanır hep çıkar gelirsin. Çıkar gelirsin
sokaklara,
çıkar gelirsin
denizlere,
çıkar gelirsin
sokaklara,
çıkar gelirsin
İstanbul'a,
çıkar gelirsin.
Ödülün ilk yılı...
We also would like to thank Ümit Kıvanç, a dear friend of Hrant Dink and the foundation, who has always supported the award ceremony since the first year with the design of the videos. We hope that the struggles that we heard about tonight will give us all courage, hope, and solidarity. Now it's a classic. Let's end the evening with a video from 2006.
O ülke karanlık bir ülke değil. Aydınlanıyor ve biz orayı aydınlatmak için çaba sarf ediyoruz.
Vielen Dank, Hrant Dink und Ayşe. Das ist ja schief gegangen. Hey,